I snagged this little nightstand for $10 on Facebook Marketplace, and I've been wanting to do a try at a high gloss finish, so I thought this little piece would be the perfect one to do that with. So let's get started. First off, even though I'm going to be painting this paint that's here is probably latex wall paint, and it is not holding on very well. So I'm going to need to strip everything off. So I'm using my favorite clean strip premium stripper. I will apply this to the entire piece, let it sit and do its thing before scraping off all the paint. As I start scraping, I am ecstatic because this paint is just melting right off of this nightstand. After inspecting a little closer, I realized that the front of these drawer fronts, these false fronts, come right off, which is going to be really convenient for stripping and refinishing. As I work on this piece, I'm realizing that I haven't seen any MDF, any particle board, any laminate, anything like that. So this piece is actually solid wood. I think it's birch. It doesn't have the graining of pine, but it does seem to be pretty soft wood. But anyway, otherwise, it's a pretty well constructed little piece, so that was a nice surprise. On the back of the drawer fronts, the paint did not strip off as easy, and so what I'm thinking is that the back of these drawers were not finished with like a top coat originally, and so it was just raw wood, and the paint had soaked into the wood as opposed to the other parts that were protected by a top coat, and the paint just kind of slid off. So I'm gonna probably have to sand off the majority of this paint on the back. Next, I'll use lacquer thinner, steel wool, and shop towels to remove the remaining paint and the stripper residue. And finally, the last step before painting is to give everything a sand down. This will get, again, all the rest of the paint off of there, and then just give a nice scuff for adhesion. I'm going to be using a new sprayer to me. Gochifix sent me this sprayer to try out on this project, and so I'm just opening it up and checking out what's all in here. So this is a all-in-one kit. You have everything you need, no tools required. Comes with the motor and the canister and spray head, and you get a little flow rate monitor thing to thin out your paint properly, 2 batteries that give you about 60 minutes of runtime, a charger, goggles and gloves over there, and a bunch of spray tips in different sizes. They are metal spray tips, and some filters to get you started. Also some cleaning tools, which is really nice because you always get little clogs here and there. And for this project, I'm going to be using the finest tip, which is a number 1. So to install the tip, you just remove the cap, and then you can take out the tip that was pre-installed. And I'm going to go ahead and put the number 1 in because I want the finest spray as I possibly can get on this. Since I'm going for a gloss look, I want everything to be nice and smooth. So after you line up the tip, you can just press it in and then replace the cap. So there are 6 total different spray tips. You can adjust the flow to horizontal or vertical, and then with this knob you can adjust the width, and then there is a flow control at the trigger as well. And like I mentioned, this is cordless, so it is battery operated. You get 2 batteries. It says you get 60 minutes of total runtime with the batteries. I'm not sure if that's per battery or total, so we'll find out. But again, you just easily snap it together and you are good to go. The color I've chosen is Expressive Plum by Sherwin-Williams. I saw this color used by ETZ Modern Vintage over on Instagram and fell in love with it, especially with the high gloss finish. And so again, this is my first time doing a high gloss. I'm going to get the high gloss from a gloss polyurethane top coat. So for my paint, I've chosen to use chalk paint. The reason I chose to use chalk paint is because I know that it will sand smooth, it dries quickly, and it requires a top coat. So I was worried about using a paint that has a built-in top coat, and then they recommend that you don't put additional top coat on top of it. So I know that this is safe to do, and so that's why I am using the paint. For my first impressions of the paint sprayer with this paint, I did water it down a little bit, and I am using the finest spray tip that came in the kit, and it's actually spraying quite well. So I'm pretty happy with that so far. If you want to give the sprayer a try and snag it at a 20% discount, you can use the code in the description and grab one for yourself on Amazon. Another note, I'm not using an actual primer because with chalk paint, the first layer kind of acts as the primer. So I'm going to apply this first layer and then inspect for areas that we're going to need to fill. After about an hour, I came back and am filling the holes and dents with Bondo glazing putty. This will be ready to sand in about 20 minutes or so. After that's set, Now I can come back and sand those smooth. I'll also be doing a scuff sand over the whole piece. As you can see, kind of that rough texture there from the paint has raised the grain a little bit, and so this will take care of that as well. Before adding my second layer of paint, I just did another layer of fill on a couple of new spots that I found, as well as just going back over some of the spots that I already did just to make sure they were nice and filled. After a second coat of paint, I'm coming in with a fine grit sandpaper and just smoothing everything out. For the high gloss look, I do want it as smooth as I can possibly get it. After letting the third coat dry, giving it a very, very light smooth out with a high grit sandpaper, I'm now applying my first layer of gloss top coat. This is Minwax Polyacrylic. I've decided to switch over to my Earlax sprayer because while the Gochifix was great for the paint, I just want to make sure I get the finest spray as I possibly can. So I'm switching over to that for the top coat. I'll be doing several layers of the top coat with a scuff sand in between. I'm using a 400 grit sanding sponge for the scuff sanding. Altogether, I applied 5 coats of polyurethane. I think 2 or 3 would have been okay if you were going to leave it as is, but once this is cured, I'm going to try polishing it and I will update you on how that turns out. But for now, let's take a look back at where we started. This little piece had nice curves, it was solid wood, just had a really bad paint job that needed some love. So let's see how this high gloss glow up turned out. It's by no means a professional lacquer finish, but all in all, I think it looks pretty good. There's a slight bit of orange peel texture, so we'll see how that goes when I try and polish it. But overall, I'm pretty happy. I was also quite impressed with the cordless Gochifix sprayer, so if you want to try that out, check my description for a 20% off discount code. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.